Let's take a look at the schedule. I've added one thing more to the schedule than what you saw last week, so I wanted to point that out. Today is, of course, the 23rd. We're going to finish up chapter 20 and then proceed into chapter 21. Now, if you look a little bit further into the month of April, in the middle of April, April 13th, we have the spring ritual, which means that for that particular Sunday, our meeting is going to be 1 hour instead of 2 hours. It's actually a little bit less than 1 hour. So I usually ask the other presenters to give me that time so I can present some different topics other than the Dao De Jing. So then after that, there's gonna be a Dao conference specifically for new initiates here at the temple, and so we won't be having an online meeting that day on April 20th. After that, we'll continue on normally for a couple of weeks, as you can see. So that's the schedule. So today, we want to complete chapter 20. Last week was like part 2 of a very long chapter. Today, part 3, we get to kind of wrap up the last, I would say the last 20% of the chapter. So the bottom lines, I would say maybe about 10 lines at the bottom is what we will focus on. So what we have, we don't have a whole lot of time today. So let's go ahead and do a very quick summary of summaries from previous 2 weeks, previous 2 Sundays. So we began this chapter at the very top. The very first line was a reminder that book knowledge is not something to focus on. Life knowledge is something to be lived. And then Lao Tzu goes on to talk about how people stress over what other people think, external approval, whereas Lao Tzu himself is he is someone who prefers to put the emphasis on his own internal validation for his own internal standards rather than external approval. Then Lao Tzu also makes a comment on how people perceive good and bad, right and wrong, and Lao Tzu expresses how he can see different sides of an issue via appreciating, understanding different perspectives. Then Lao Tzu is clear to say that, well, you know, he's not being arrogant and setting himself apart from other people, from humanity. He wants to say that he's only human. Now, at the same time, he doesn't want to minimize the difference between the way he thinks and the way he approaches life from most people, and then he proceeds to give a whole bunch of examples. So last week, we focused on those examples. What we did was that we sectioned them off. Every section has a description on how people are, and then a description on how Lao Tzu is. So today, I will certainly present a summary on that. For now, though, let's kind of work our way down. So what we talked about was that people tend to be social animals in that they love to gather together with other people. They love to sample the pleasures of the physical world, material world. They get very excited, they get very noisy, and they are engaged in thrills, in group activities. Lao Tzu is quite different. He prefers quietness instead of parties, and he wants the simple pleasures instead of physical thrills, sensory overloads. And he wants quality and not quantity. So for Lao Tzu, it's not a fantastic thing to say that, oh, I have hundreds of friends, thousands of friends. Lao Tzu himself would prefer to say, you know, I have just a few friends, but these are the friends, these are the friendships that I will maintain over a lifetime. These are the real friends. These are the great friends. And everyone, you can see this in the world around us. When you see people who, you know, are highly popular and they know a lot of people, look at their Facebook page, wow, hundreds, thousands of friends, while they don't really get to know any one of them very well or very deeply. And then we also talked about a difference between most people and Lao Tzu. in that people want to accumulate more and more and more. Lao Tzu is more interested in reducing, simplifying, streamlining to have a life that is usable. So here I'm using a garage as a metaphor for life. So a life that is too busy, too cluttered, you are not able to use this garage for its original intended purpose, which was to have a vehicle be in it, to protect it in it. So that is the metaphor for a life that you are not able to live according to the original intended purpose of that life. So a well-lived life, the streamlined, simplified, uncluttered life is like this garage where things are organized, hung on the walls, and the space is there for the original intent of the garage, which is to say, metaphorically, your life, you are able to utilize your life the way that it was intended, the way that it was designed to do. So the example that I used previously was a gentleman by the name of Drew. He had this experience. He had the epiphany while organizing his mother's belongings after her passing. So then now let's delve into new territory. So if you look at this slide, the top few lines, the people all have surplus, while I alone seem lacking. That was addressed in the previous slide. As you can see, I have those characters in red. And then now we're going to move down to the bottom part. So first of all, on line 16, you have Lao Tzu saying that, well, I have the heart of a fool indeed, so ignorance. This means by the standard of most people, people will look at him and say, what? You don't want more? You don't want to accumulate more things? That's foolish. So that's what he is referring to. I have the heart of a fool because it's true. I don't want those extra things in my life. I don't want to slow myself down, burdened with the extra baggage. I want to travel light. So I must be a fool. I must be ignorant. I don't know the value of these things that people want to give to me. Okay, then Lao Tzu is now being much more specific. So talking again about how people are and how he is. So I want to point out that we have repeated characters. So you can see the characters in red. Now, the two characters right in front of it are the same. As you can see in line 17, line 19, they're the same. So, su ren. So the first character, the pronunciation is like su. However, Chinese is pitched. Every character has a different pitch. So we would, say Su, like S-U-E, the name Su, or you can also think of it as I will sue you, or you are here for my lawyer, I will sue you. That's the other Su. Now, in Chinese, that same sound has different pitches. It would be Su, 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 Su. 4 different ways to say it in Mandarin. 4 different primary ways. There are situations where you get more, but so the bottom line is all of those different sounds represent different characters, and this particular one, it means it's translated as ordinary. So I want to make sure you understand the nuance and the context of this particular character. This is when we talk about like in English, you might say the unwashed masses. You might say pedestrian. You might say peon. You might say the peasant in a derogatory way. So here, the idea is that you are nothing special, ordinary as being very average or mediocre. So it's probably closest to the nuance of the word mediocre, because a lot of times, notice that in English, when we say, oh, that's mediocre, you're saying that it's nothing special. You're actually saying it in a slightly negative connotation. So that's the feel here to say ordinary. So you might say unremarkable people. Most people are not remarkable in any way. They have They have very pedestrian thinking. They are very mired in the everyday world. They don't have any insights to offer. But these ordinary people are bright. So that's this particular character repeated twice for emphasis. So one character alone itself means brightness. Two characters together, very bright. And specifically in the context of being very clever, shrewdness. So you may, in your life, you may know people who are smart, but that they use their intelligence, their smarts in a cutting way. That is, they're always looking to cut people down with a sarcastic remark by being very cynical, etc. It's possible to be intelligent in that way. So for the ancient Chinese, they would use this to demonstrate, to describe someone who's shrewd and calculating, but not in a positive way. Not calculating like a strategist, calculating like, oh, I paid a few cents more, I got ripped off. That type of calculating. So then we have another two repeating characters. So one character, so ca. One character by itself would be simply to investigate. Two characters together would be someone who likes to scrutinize. To scrutinize in order to criticize, in order to be harsh, in a very aggressive way. So people are, so together it's saying that people are very calculating and very aggressively scrutinizing everything. So this is one way to say that most people are penny wise but pound foolish. That is, they focus on gains, short-term gains and losses of the moment without realizing long-term benefits. So they would, for instance, stiff someone on a tip and not care about establishing a positive relationship with someone who serves you meals, as an example, like a waiter at a restaurant. So what about Lao Tzu himself? So rather than spreadsheets and detailed calculations, Lao Tzu prefers the guidance of principles. And those principles will be integrity, compassion, being gentle with others. And then instead of being harsh, critical, and aggressive, Lao Tzu prefers being mellow and relaxed. So I have a reference here which may be kind of obscure. This is a movie reference. So those of you who are connecting on the internet and you see this little cartoon, if you know that reference, go ahead and type it out. I will pause for a couple of moments to see if you know who that is. That's being depicted in comic form here, as you can see. And there's a hint actually in the graphic. It says, "You're Mr. Lebowski. I'm the dude." Okay, what is that? What is the reference of that? Okay, so I think I have very well-informed audience. So Carmen recognizes who that is. That is the Dudester, or the Duderama, the Dudemeister, etc. No, that's and Carmen is correct. That is indeed who she thinks it is. And I also then have Tim identifying this character, this movie as The Big Lebowski. That's a co-favorite, and I have recognition from Bob. The way of the dude is dudism, man, or it's dudism, dude, right? Okay, and for Mark, The Big Lebowski also. Sophia, The Big Lebowski. You are all correct. So Jeff Bridges, in his sort of a unique, iconic role as the dude. So so here, this is a scene from the movie when he says, hey, I'm not Mr. Lebowski, you're Mr. Lebowski. Me? I'm the dude. All right, so in that movie, the character, the dude, expresses some of the tenets of Buddhism, which is sort of a westernized Daoism. Now, I will say that part of it is an exaggeration and a caricature. So, for instance, he walks around the entire movie wearing his pajamas. You know, he's very relaxed. That is to showcase how mellow and relaxed he is. And an actual Dao cultivator is presentable rather than so relaxed that you go everywhere wearing, you know, your pajamas. But the idea is similar in that rather than to face the world with a lot of stress and tension, you know, scrutinizing everything, the Dao cultivator is more like the dude in being very relaxed and mellow in regarding everything. So one thing that is missing from the movie, though, is the central concept in the Dao that a Dao cultivator is actually very strict and disciplined within himself, to himself or herself, but to the external world is very mellow and relaxed. Doesn't want to force his own thoughts on anyone, doesn't want to impose on anybody, doesn't want other people, doesn't need other people to believe the same way he believes or do the same things that he does. He has a high standard, but only for himself. So, Big Lebowski, funny movie, and a reasonable starting point to the true teachings of the Tao. Some of it is exaggerated for dramatic effect. So I use that graphic because it seems to summarize the last part of it quite well, you know. And you don't have to be male and resemble Jeff Bridges to be the dude. You can be female and also be the dude. And if you prefer, you are the dudette. And you know, they will probably say, no, you can be the dude-arena, right? All right, so now we come to the end of this chapter. Now we have a couple of lines here that appear to be out of place because prior to this point, and let me point these out in the big slide so you see what I'm talking about. Now, notice that I'm dividing this up into different sections, and it's comparison, 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 something else, and then comparison, comparison again. So from line 8 down to line 13, you can tell I have the people, and then I have I alone. So the people, how other people are, I alone, how Lao is. So that's a comparison. And then we have the same scheme in 14, the people. And then line 15, I alone. Okay, cool. And we're following that same pattern. And then line 17, ordinary people, and then I alone. Cool, same pattern again. And then 19 and 20, ordinary people and I alone. Again, a comparison. And then suddenly you have a description here that seems to come out of nowhere. Such tranquility, like the ocean. Such high wind, as if without limits. So that's these two lines. And these are very literal translations. That last character there on line 21, that's literally the character for the ocean. Here, let me just say again to everyone, a lot of times people will say that, well, there can be no definitive translation of the Tao Te Ching because every character in Chinese can have multiple meaning and they mean different things at different times to different people, blah, blah, blah. Well, people who say that don't actually know Chinese and don't really know linguistics. So this particular character would be an exception to that. That character, hi, it's only ocean, okay? So it only means ocean. And if you were to encounter the English word ocean, you pretty much figure out what that means. It could be the actual ocean, it could be a metaphorical ocean, but it's the ocean. Then the second to last character is similar to or like. So together, it's like the ocean. And then of course, we have the second character there. I'm kind of working my way backwards. Second character there is emphasis. So it's actually translated as such. And then we have the first character translated as tranquility. So such tranquility like the ocean, and then we have a similar scheme down below, Notice that we have the same character here. The third character is the same between line 22 and 21. Same character there. Translated similarly. Here, it's translated using the word like. Here, as if. So if you wanted to revise it, you can also make it like it's without limits. That would be very accurate as well. Okay, so now let's ask the question. When scholars study Dao De Jing, they will always ask the following question. They will say, these two lines appear to be out of place. They don't fit the scheme of the rest of this chapter. Are they interpolations? So the word interpolation in the study of ancient text has a specific meaning. In mathematics, interpolation is when you take two different data points and you interpolate between them to something in between. So like, for instance, today I sold a total of well, let's just say last Monday I sold a total of 10 books. Last Friday I sold a total of 100 books. How many books did I sell on Wednesday in the middle of the week? And you might say, well, between 10 and 100, you probably sold maybe 50, 60 books. That's an interpolation between two data points. So in mathematics, that's what interpolation means, is to extrapolate from existing data. In ancient texts, interpolation has a different meaning. Interpolation means that in ancient times, the way that ancient texts are transmitted or popularized is by being copied by hand. Why? Because remember, this was before the days of Kinkos, so people could not just go to a photocopier and make copies, nor could they publish. It's before the invention of publication. So everything that has to be duplicated has to be copied by hand. So when scribes copy ancient text from an original source to new parchment or bamboo strips or tree bark, as the case may be, they may add some things of their own. That's interpolation, adding something, okay? So it's not to extrapolate a data point. So then they'll ask, are those two lines interpolations? Are those added in by someone who wanted to express those ideas? They seem like they could be. Now, it turns out to be that they are not interpolations. And the reason why we know is because when we unearthed the oldest known versions of the Dao De Jing, which is about 2200 years ago, so separating, and there's been it's the closest one we have, and it's a few hundred years from the time of Lao Tzu. So even in the very earliest versions of the Dao De Jing that archaeologists were able to discover, those two lines exist. Okay, so chances are pretty good that it's not something that later scribes interpolated. So tentatively, we would say that these are the words of Lao Tzu, not interpolations. And the reason they're probably in place is because you've got comparison, 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 and then a break, like taking a breath, and then comparison, comparison to end. So here, specifically, it is Lao Tzu contemplating the Tao that he is immersed in before he wraps up the chapter with further concluding comparisons. So back to the explanation. So here's when we put all of that together, this is the interpretation that we come up with. Let me just kind of check to make sure, yeah, we covered the dudes, so we're okay there. All right, so here's the interpretation. Let me go ahead and just kind of read that off, exactly as you see it in the slide. So compared to their limits, the limits of regular people, average people, compared to their limits, I feel as if I am immersed in the tranquil depths of the ocean, while also soaring like the winds above across the limitless skies. Remember, this is an interpretation. Then most people have, and here's the concluding comparisons, most people have materialistic goals to accumulate more and climb the social ladder, while I stubbornly keep to a simplistic lifestyle and feel no need to compete for position. I seem to be the only one who is different from all the rest. The things that others value do not matter to me. What I value is the Tao, for it nurtures my spirit like a nourishing mother. So one important thing to point out here is that the Tao is formless. It's a formless essence. It is not personified. It is not a deity. It is not a god or goddess. When Lao Tzu needs to compare it to something, he looks at the nurturing aspect of the Tao, the fact that whatever it is that provides the force of life for all living things, that's the Tao. So he sees more of a feminine, nurturing essence in there. So if you were forced to choose between God or goddess, the Tao would be goddess, not God. So the nourishing mother, another word for the Tao. That is also the reason why in this tradition, I-kuan Dao, an alternative name for the essence of the Tao, the life-nurturing essence of the Tao is Lao Mu. So Lao means ancient because whatever that essence is, it's been around forever, since the beginning, beyond the beginning. Mu is synonymous. It's a synonym to mother, but it's written differently to symbolize the mother of existence rather than like a human mother. Alrighty. So now this is the bottom part of the chapter. Let me just point out a couple of things before we move on. As you know, I like to point out some characters every now and then. So the very last character, this is the Chinese character for mother. So this is not a character that you can translate any other way. This is mother, mom. And then this character, second from last character, this means eat. Okay, so when you put the two together, if you were to look at it from modern sensibilities and knowing nothing about ancient Chinese, eat mother. What? Wait a minute. Okay, and then we have the character here for value. I value eating mother. Hold on one sec. That ain't right. So in ancient Chinese, it is not used as a verb, but as an adjective. So to eat is to be nourished. So here, it means the mother who nurtures or nourishes the children. Or you can also say the mother who feeds the children, provides the children with sustenance for life. In this case, not physical sustenance, but spiritual sustenance. Food for the soul, as it were. So I wanted to make sure you get the benefits of knowing what those characters are. All right, now this is a lengthy chapter. That's why it took us 3 weekends to cover the whole thing. Now, the previous 2 weekends, I presented everyone with a whole bunch of questions to ponder. I want to make sure that you have some time to think about it, and I also want to offer some suggestions on how to answer those questions. First, a summary of all the different interpretations. This table will outline the difference between how people are and how Lao Tzu is. So if you take a look, the first one, we start out with people indulging heavily in physical pleasures of the world. So Enjoying a great feast is a way to describe that. It's generalized to all physical senses. People love excitement, love making a lot of noise. So we associate, for instance, the nightlife, nightclubs, neon lights to quote unquote fun. So when you go out, yeah, I'm heading out with the boys, I'm heading out with the girls, I'm heading out with my friends, my buds, etc. You're going to these noisy places to groove, to quote unquote get down. So that is what most people do. So, and perhaps when Lao Tzu was a young man, he also enjoyed getting down. I don't know, but by the time that he wrote this, he had lived a long life, and he expresses that he prefers the simple things in life. Simple needs, like an infant, prefers peace and quiet, and weary of all the socializing and partying everybody is into. And remember, he has clarity on what actually happens when people get together. People are usually complaining about something to one another, venting, or they are comparing against one another. So either complaining or comparing. Those are the group activities that most people are engaged in. So great majority of the people have clutter in their lives, and they're quite proud of it. They're proud of their various collections. They have collections of different things that they show off. Lao Tzu has the minimalist mindset. He wants to hang on to just what he needs, and he feels that it is incredibly freeing. But other people will look at him and see that he has only the bare necessities for life. They will feel like he is lacking what everybody else seems to have. Okay, then we have the calculating, seeking to gain some sort of advantage over one another. That's the social competition that we were talking about a little earlier. Lao Tzu is not interested in all that. There's a lot of petty bickering involved. He's not into that type of competition, and therefore people look at him and say, are you dumb? Why aren't you out there to get yours? I've got mine. No, you have to go get yours. So lastly, people are full of materialistic goals, going after position, power, prestige, profits. Lao Tzu is different, transcends the material world, and people don't really get that and may find it a little bit threatening. So that's the summary of all the different ways that Lao Tzu is different from others. Now, let me present previous summaries. So remember the question that I asked before, how much importance do you place on the good opinion of others? How much would be appropriate? And let me ask everyone to always think of it in terms of moderation. Can you completely disregard the opinion of other people? In the Tao, we would say, no, you always have to take some into account. You don't want to be obsessed over what other people think. That's one extreme, but you also don't want to be completely indifferent to what other people think. That's the other extreme. So what is the equilibrium for you? Can you envision the possibility of radical shift in your perspective of good and evil? I would also put in like right and wrong. What would be some possibilities for you to shift your perspective on what is right? What does it mean to be cautious, yet carefree? I'll provide an answer there. The reason why I ask this question is because Lao Tzu says, what the people fear, I must also fear. Which sounds a little bit odd when you're just reading the chapter, and then he's talking about all these differences, and then here he's talking about similarity. So it sounds a little bit strange. So he's talking about a mindset of being very cautious, fearing things that could be harmful to him. But then in the Tao, we also talk about being carefree. So my question, my challenge to everyone is, can you reconcile the two concepts? To be fearful, but then carefree, what is that? To be cautious, but then carefree, how does that work? So that's my challenge to you, to frame those two things in a way that is unified, that's integrated. And then the next question, how are you different from the people that you know that are not into the Tao? What makes you different? Are you as different from them as Lao-Tzu is different from most people? And then another challenge, in your own words, what are the characteristics of Lao-Tzu's self-description? And which of those characteristics do you share or identify with? And which are the ones that you would like to see more of within yourself? You know, you may very well say that, you know what, I'm a party animal, always will be, so sorry, that's where I part company with Lao-Tzu. There are no requirements for you to take on any of the characteristics that Lao-Tzu expresses for himself. He only offers a self-description for your consideration, for your understanding, and he's not, in that entire chapter, he does not preach that you have to become like that. He does not say that it's some sort of a divine command for you to be the way that he is. Now, sorry, go ahead. So this is what I point out. This is what I point out where those questions come from. So in line 6, you're going to see what the people fear. I cannot be unafraid. Okay, and then above that, you're going to see respectful response, wrongful response. How much is the difference? And that's where we talk about, hey, external approval. How much of that is appropriate for you? So focusing on those two. To go a little bit further, do you find yourself seeking external approval? And I should maybe make that craving external approval. Do you crave the spotlight? Do you feel a strong urge to post in Facebook about a fantastic vacation that you just had, or how wonderful your significant other is treating you? And do you feel a bit disappointed if you fail to get that approval? What if people don't really care? Then Lao-Tzu will say, the reality is that people always care more about what's happening to them than the good things that are happening to you. So your mission to get external approval for the good things that are happening in your life is ego-driven, not something that matters a whole lot to other people. If you can see that, you wouldn't be so fixated on gaining their approval. Second big point, what does it mean to be cautious yet carefree? May seem like a paradox or a contradiction, but let's see how we can also, how we can in fact be an integrated whole. So let's try this. Dao cultivators are carefree precisely because they have already prepared and planned cautiously. Now, they don't demand that they plan everything down to a T. They only prepare to the extent that they can. They are like, you know, the Boy Scout motto, always be prepared. And prepare not only for what's going to happen, but also plan B, plan C. They always have a plan B. They always have contingencies. So they have an idea of what to do when something goes wrong or something does not proceed as expected. Once they have made those plans, they can completely relax. Even if they have to improvise, when things really take a strange turn, even if they have to improvise, they know that they can improvise as well as anyone can because of all the preparation that they have done. So it is by being cautious and they know that they have done all the preparations possible that they can truly relax. They haven't left anything to chance. Everything that they can work on, that they can control, they have already worked on, they have already placed under their control. So a common mistake is relaxing before you have done the due diligence. Then something happens that's unexpected, your plans get derailed, and you have no good contingencies to rely on. So you can indeed be cautious yet carefree, and it's the caution that allows you to be carefree. Okay, so this is just suggestions to help you answer that question. In your own words, what are the characteristics of Lao Tzu's self-descriptions? So let's take a look at this. People like to jump on the bandwagon. Okay, so bandwagon will be a key term. Fad will be another. Trend will be another. So people are always looking to others. Hey, what's everybody else into? Maybe I should be into it. So in cultivating the Tao, the idea is to remain detached, to observe, to see what's going on, rather than to be a slave to fads, rather than to jump on the bandwagon. So I'm throwing a lot of concepts out at everybody today. This chapter is a very demanding chapter and demands, I think a closer level of consideration and scrutiny, and also, some self-knowledge in terms of the Q&A. So I have another keyword here, kvetch. People love kvetching, venting. And the important thing to realize is that I would say, number one, if you look at your life, if you look at everybody that you know, you're going to realize that majority of the people are complaining. And it's the exception to the rule that do not complain, that maintain a positive attitude at all times. So think about that. So this justifies the position of Lao Tzu, that most people, they get together with others, they're complaining and comparing all the time. Also, notice that nothing ever gets changed as a result of complaints. People are complaining for the sake of complaining, not for the sake of changing the things that they're complaining about. So that is why Lao Tzu prefers to skip all that and direct his energies to more worthwhile pursuits. Lastly, this is about clutter. People say more, 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 give me more. And that happens to be a Britney Spears song. Lao Tzu says less, less, less. Self-storage industry in the US is now generating more than $24 billion annually. That's a huge amount. So what that says to us is that if people liked to accumulate back then in ancient China, well, that certainly hasn't changed in modern day North America. People love to accumulate. And now we have reality shows on TV about that. We have terms like hoarding. So the challenge in following the Tao is to be different from everyone else. All right, so finally, we have arrived at chapter 21, and we are also arriving at the end of our time together today. So today, we're actually not able to get started on chapter 21. We'll do that next time. For now, we'll just go over today's summary, and then we can have our meeting ending ritual today. So for the last part of chapter 20 that we're talking about, again, it's a chapter that's dense with ideas. For the last part, 3 points to emulate Lao Tzu. Number one, observe how aggressive and rude people act. So I'm referring to people who are aggressive and rude to others. Observe these people, observe how they act from their fears and insecurities, and for yourself, resolve to use them as your counterexamples in life. These people are not the ones that are having joy or happiness, persistent joy and happiness in their lives. You want to be different from that. You want to be the very opposite. Number two, disengage from the rat race, refrain from comparison with other people. In all likelihood, they have issues you don't know about. So if you have parents, like I do, who are constantly saying how great other kids are, looking at this will inform you that, well, that's how most people are. They're constantly comparing. When people don't compare themselves against others, they compare their kids against other people's kids. And most of the time, these comparisons are extremely superficial. And they do not, people don't air their dirty laundries, so people who are making these comparisons, they have no idea what all the issues are that other people have. So think of it this way. In Facebook, you can see a post from your friends and about the good things that are happening to other people's lives. I just had an incredible vacation. Or, I can't believe how fantastic my boyfriend is, etc. You see posts like that, and there's going to be, you won't see, for instance, a gentleman who says, I just discovered today that my wife has been cheating on me for the last 5 years. That is not going to be a post that you usually see. So people have issues that you don't care about, that you don't know about, and it's when you are comparing yourself against them, it's usually the surface level and not the totality of someone else's existence, and therefore it is meaningless to engage in doing that. It's better to compare yourself against the high standards that you have set for yourself as a Tao cultivator. You always want to better yourself. Number three, spiritual sustenance. Increase your cultivation of the Tao. Draw strength from the nurturing energy of the Tao. You can do that without compromising any current spiritual practice that you have. You can do that without compromising any religious tradition that you are involved with. This is about the formless Tao. This is not about another deity that you have to worship. This is about drawing positive energy from existence itself. So those are the three thoughts that I wanted to share with you. It is now 12:33, so let me ask that we go ahead and do the meeting ending ritual. 起立，面向佛堂，持下三鞠躬，一鞠躬，再鞠躬，三鞠躬，持下各位点传是一鞠躬，结班一鞠躬。Thanks, everybody. We're all done for today. Long, tough chapter. Congratulations for making your way through it. If you've been in the previous two lectures, this one completes that entire process.